The Indiana Fever just suffered the most embarrassing 40 seconds of their entire season, and Stephanie White has nobody to blame but herself. Stick around because by the end of this video you're going to understand exactly why this loss wasn't just a bad night. It was a full exposure of everything broken inside the Indiana Fever locker room, the coaching, the rotations, the bench, all of it. And if you're a Fever fan or you just love holding front offices accountable, this breakdown is going to make you furious. Let's get into it. This has been such a confusing game to watch. Honestly, Stephanie White needs to be out of Indiana within the next hour. I'm not exaggerating, bro. The way they let Olivia Miles walk through them the entire night is disrespectful to Caitlin Clark, and it is damn sure disrespectful to Indiana Fever fans across this entire country. Before we go further, if this breakdown is hitting different, do me a favor and smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know, and it tells me you want more honest analysis like this. There's so much to unpack here, so let's not waste another second. That frustration you just heard? That's not just a bad game. That's a pattern. And what happened in Minnesota exposes something deeper about the Indiana Fever's defensive identity, or honestly, the lack thereof. Olivia Nelson-Ododa put up a career performance. Courtney Williams carved through the defense like it wasn't even there. And the Fever's coaching staff looked completely unprepared, despite already facing this exact Minnesota roster multiple times this season. So we have to ask the hard question. Is Stephanie White's defensive scheme the actual problem, or is it the personnel executing it? Because right now both answers are ugly. Caitlin Clark struggled early on. She eventually found her footing, got her rhythm, and found her shot again. But overall, I am not happy at all with what Olivia Miles has been doing to this Indiana Fever team. They play the same coverage every single time. So if you've got Caitlin Clark in that practice gym every day, how do you not prepare for Olivia Miles? How do you not prepare for a player you've already scouted all season? Here's what makes this particularly damning. Caitlin Clark struggling early happens to every rookie in this league. That part is normal. But the real story is what happened on the other end of the floor. The Fever allowed the Lynx to shoot 65% from the field in the first half. 65%. That is not good offense beating good defense. That is a defensive collapse so fundamental you have to question what's actually happening in Fever practices. Go back and watch that clip again. Really watch the body language. That's not confusion out there. That's resignation. They knew exactly what was coming and they still couldn't stop it. Let's talk numbers because the box score tells a brutal story. Monique Billings played 23 minutes and gave the team 9 points and 3 rebounds. Aliyah Boston played 32 minutes, dropped 15 points, grabbed 7 rebounds and actually recorded 7 assists. Genuinely solid playmaking, but she also had turnovers and more importantly she got worked in the post the entire night. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, played a clean first half with 0 turnovers. She's currently sitting at 3 total turnovers on the game, across 34 minutes, while holding on to her usual 19 points. Aliyah Boston is supposed to be this team's defensive anchor. 15 points and 7 rebounds looks fine on paper, but she was getting bullied by Nalissa Collier and Sylvia Fowles in the post, and the help defense simply never showed up. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell is carrying this entire offense on her back. 37 points on efficient shooting, and it still wasn't enough to steal the game. That right there is the problem. When your best two-way player has a career night offensively and the team still loses by double digits, your defensive foundation isn't just cracked, it's collapsing. The Minnesota Lynx shooting 65% from the field in a single half is one of the worst defensive looks you will see from a playoff hopeful team all season. Sophie Cunningham looked completely lost out there. 22 minutes, 3 points. Come on Sophie, we need more than that from you. Myisha Thompson logged 20 minutes and scored 7 points. Myisha Hines-Allen barely saw the floor at all. But here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the bench production gap. The Lynx got real, meaningful minutes from their second unit. Diamond Miller and Dorka Juhas came in and actually maintained the intensity level of the starters. Now flip over to the Fever's bench. Nalissa Smith played 22 minutes and gave you 3 points. 3. Sophie Cunningham, who is supposed to bring veteran presence and knock down perimeter shooting, barely made a dent. When your starters are getting torched defensively and your bench can't provide a single spark, that's not a one-game problem. That's a roster construction issue that's been building all season long. For Minnesota, Natasha Howard, a former Fever player, dropped 13 points. Nafisa Collier added 18. Kayla McBride chipped in 10. And Courtney Williams put up a whopping 26 points. And we can't forget Olivia Miles. 11 of 14 from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point range, good for 50% shooting from deep, 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and only 3 turnovers. With 32 seconds left on the clock, Indiana Fever were about to lose this basketball game right in front of their own fans. It genuinely hurts to watch. Now pay close attention to this next part because it reveals the real coaching mismatch on display. Cheryl Reeve is a 4-time WNBA champion. She has forgotten more about basketball than most coaches in this league will ever learn, and you could see that basketball IQ in exactly how the Lynx attacked. They identified the Fever's defensive weaknesses in the first quarter and just kept hammering the same soft spot over and over. Olivia Nelson-Ododa going 11 for 14 from the field is not luck. That's scheme. That's preparation. That's knowing exactly where the help defense is rotating from and exploiting the gap before it even closes. Meanwhile, Stephanie White made no meaningful adjustments. Same defensive coverages. Same broken rotations. Same result. Shout out to Kelsey Mitchell, man, she put this entire team on her back tonight. She's now climbing the record boards, sitting at second in the WNBA for consecutive 20-point games. Aliyah Wilson currently holds that streak record at 15 straight 20-point games, and Mitchell is chasing her down fast. And this is what frustrates Fever fans the most. It's not even that they lost, it's how they lost. There is no moral victory in watching Olivia Nelson-Ododa, a player who normally averages single digits, drop 28 points on your head. There's no silver lining in Courtney Williams, a player you've already faced multiple times this season, going for 26 because your coaching staff refused to adjust the scheme. This wasn't Minnesota catching fire. This was systematic exploitation of defensive weaknesses that have been sitting on game film all season long. Every team in this league can see it on tape. The real question is, why can't the Fever coaching staff fix it? Let's put Kelsey Mitchell's performance into proper context, because she genuinely earned it. 13 straight games with 20-plus points, second in the entire WNBA behind only Aliyah Wilson's 15-game streak. Mitchell is playing at an all-WNBA level right now. 37 points on efficient shooting, only 1 turnover the entire game, and she's doing all of this while being the #1 focus of every opposing defense, because teams already know she's the only truly consistent offensive threat on this roster. Think about that for a second. The Fever's second-best offensive option managed just 15 points, and their entire bench combined for barely double digits. Mitchell is carrying an offensive workload that is simply not sustainable across a full 40-game season. That final minute of the game revealed everything you need to know. Down by 8 points with under a minute left, and this team is still fighting, still competing. That speaks to real character in that locker room. But character doesn't fix scheme. Heart alone doesn't overcome broken defensive rotations, and raw effort can't compensate for a coaching staff that looks overmatched every time they face an elite, well-coached opponent. Watch Caitlin Clark in that final sequence. She closed with 19 points, which is a genuinely solid rookie output in a hostile road environment, but she also finished with 3 turnovers and more importantly she was hunted on defense all night long. The Lynx specifically ran pick-and-roll actions just to force switches onto her, and the Fever had 0 counter for it. Now let's zoom out because this game is not happening in a vacuum. The Indiana Fever are in the middle of a genuine playoff push, and every single loss to a direct competitor like Minnesota carries extra weight. The WNBA playoff format is unforgiving. Only 8 teams make it out of 12. That means 4 entire teams go home in October, and right now the Fever are sitting in that murky middle of the standings where literally every game matters. They cannot afford to drop winnable games at home, and they absolutely cannot afford to get blown out on the road by a team they'll likely see again in the postseason. The defensive numbers should be what worries the front office the most. Across this recent stretch of games, the Fever are allowing opponents to shoot over 48% from the field. That ranks them in the bottom third of the entire league defensively, and it's not simply a talent issue. The Atlanta Dream don't have more raw talent than Indiana, but they play harder defensively and execute their scheme with far more discipline. The Washington Mystics are in a full rebuild and they're still showing better defensive habits on a nightly basis. This is a coaching issue, plain and simple, and Stephanie White is running out of time to prove she can actually fix it. Think about the position this puts Caitlin Clark in. She's the face of this franchise. The #1 overall pick. And she's being set up to fail by a defensive system that exposes her weaknesses instead of protecting and hiding them. Every rookie struggles defensively, that part is completely normal. But good coaching staffs scheme around that reality. They position help defenders correctly. They run coverages that minimize a rookie's defensive exposure while maximizing her offensive impact. The Fever are doing the exact opposite. They're asking Clark to guard quick, shifty point guards in isolation, and when she inevitably gets beat off the dribble, there's no help rotating over because the bigs are already committed elsewhere on the floor. And here's the thing about beat reporters and fan expectations. When you're losing games like this, the pressure only intensifies. The local media in Indianapolis is not going to give Stephanie White a pass just because she's a former Fever player herself. They're going to ask the hard questions. Why can't this team defend the simple pick and roll? Why does the bench provide zero scoring punch, game after game? Why do the exact same defensive breakdowns keep happening with no visible improvement week to week? These are legitimate, fair questions that deserve real answers, not vague coach speak like, "We need to execute better," or "We'll watch the film and make adjustments." The Cheryl Reeve coaching clinic we witnessed tonight is genuinely instructive for every team in this league. Watch how the Lynx attacked in transition. They pushed the pace, got into their offensive sets quickly, and attacked before the Fever's defense could even get organized. That's not complicated basketball. That's fundamental. But it requires real discipline, real conditioning, and a coaching staff that drills it relentlessly day after day. Now look at how Minnesota defended on the other end. They switched screens cleanly, rotated aggressively to the ball, and made the Fever earn every single basket. Meanwhile, Indiana's defense looked confused all night, consistently late on rotations, and fundamentally unsound from possession to possession. The Olivia Nelson-Ododa performance is the perfect microcosm of everything wrong with the Fever's defensive approach right now. She's not a superstar. She's not even a consistent starter for Minnesota on most nights. But Cheryl Reeve identified a matchup advantage early and exploited it ruthlessly for 48 straight minutes. Nelson-Ododa was getting deep post position all game, catching easy lobs in the dunker spot, and finishing wide-open layups because the Fever's help defense was essentially non-existent. Going 11 of 14 from the field means she was getting high percentage, wide-open looks the entire night. That's not her suddenly becoming unstoppable. That's Indiana's defense being completely unprepared for a game plan they'd already seen on film. Courtney Williams adding 26 points on top of that just compounds the entire issue. She's a crafty, experienced veteran who lives in the mid-range, and the Fever gave her that exact same shot all night long over and over again. No adjustments. No different coverages. Just the same drop coverage that let her pull up comfortably from 15 feet, possession after possession. This is what happens when a coaching staff refuses to adapt mid-game. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result. And right now, that's basically the Fever's entire defensive philosophy in a nutshell. Now compare that to how the Fever tried to attack offensively. Kelsey Mitchell working in isolation. Caitlin Clark running pick and roll. Aliyah Boston getting the occasional post-up whenever the offense remembered she existed. There's no real offensive system in place. No consistent ball movement generating open threes. No cutting and screening actions creating easy, rhythm-building baskets. It's just individual talent trying to overcome a well-coached defense. And against a team like Minnesota, that approach is never going to be enough. The Lynx knew exactly what was coming all night because the Fever run the same handful of plays every single game. The bench disparity alone tells you everything you need to know about this roster's construction. Minnesota's second unit comes in and maintains the exact same intensity as the starters. They know their roles cold. They execute the game plan without hesitation. Indiana's bench comes in and the offense completely stagnates. Possessions end in contested mid-range jumpers or careless turnovers. There's no rhythm. No flow. No confidence out there. That is a coaching failure, full stop. Every bench player should know exactly what's expected of them the second they check into the game. They should have specific actions they run, specific spots on the floor they fill, specific defensive assignments they're capable of handling. Right now, the Fever's bench looks completely lost, and that responsibility falls squarely on the coaching staff. So here's the uncomfortable truth that Fever fans need to hear tonight. This does not get better without significant changes. You can't just practice harder and magically fix fundamental scheme issues. You can't just play with more effort and overcome a genuine talent disadvantage on the bench. This team needs either a coaching change, a roster overhaul, or, realistically, probably both. Stephanie White has had more than enough time to fully implement her system. The players clearly know what she wants from them. They're just not executing it, and that leaves two possibilities. Either the system doesn't fit this personnel, or the personnel simply can't execute this system. Either way, that responsibility lands on the coaching staff to figure out, and fast. The Caitlin Clark factor makes all of this even more urgent. She is not going to stay patient forever. Rookies who arrive with her level of hype and expectation want to win immediately. They want to see real, tangible progress. They want to believe their organization actually has a plan. Right now, the Fever look like they're wasting a generational rookie season with poor coaching decisions and shaky roster construction. That is exactly how you lose a generational talent's trust before you've ever really had the chance to build it in the first place. Just ask the Sacramento Kings how that approach worked out for them across their own history of draft picks. What happens next is genuinely critical for this franchise. The Fever have a brutal stretch of games coming up on the schedule, and they're about to face several more playoff-caliber teams that will absolutely try to exploit these exact same defensive weaknesses. If they don't make real adjustments, if Stephanie White doesn't show she can actually adapt and evolve her scheme, this entire season is going to spiral out of control fast. And when that happens, the front office is going to be forced into a real decision. Do you run it back with the same coaching staff and just hope for improvement next season? Or do you finally admit the experiment failed and make the change everyone can see coming? Because right now, watching Olivia Nelson-Ododa drop 28 points on your head while your own coaching staff stands there on the sideline with no answers, that's not what a playoff team looks like. That's a lottery team with one elite offensive player single-handedly dragging them toward mediocrity. And listen, if this breakdown made you feel something tonight, whether it's frustration, validation, or just raw honesty you're not getting anywhere else, do something for me. Hit subscribe. Not because I'm asking you to, but because this channel only exists to tell Fever fans and WNBA fans everywhere the truth nobody else wants to say out loud. Every single subscriber tells me this kind of honest breakdown actually matters to you, and it genuinely keeps this channel alive. So if you care about this team, if you care about seeing Caitlin Clark get the coaching staff she actually deserves, subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. We're in this together. Because Fever fans deserve better than this. And so do you for sticking with us this far. WNBA Analysis. See you in the next one.